The movie begins with Ciro, a young thief, casually breaking into an SUV parked on a quiet street in Buenos Aires. His intent is simple: steal any valuable items left inside the luxury vehicle. The atmosphere is tense but routine, as Ciro appears experienced in such acts. However, this particular car isn't what it seems. As soon as Ciro locks himself inside, he realizes he's trapped. The doors automatically lock, the windows are bulletproof, and the car's systems are fully controlled remotely. The SUV becomes a cage, turning Ciro's crime into a life-threatening ordeal. The cage closes in. Ciro tries every possible way to escape, smashing the windows, prying the doors, and attempting to disable the car's electronic systems. None of his efforts work. As hours pass, the reality of his predicament sinks in. A phone inside the SUV rings, breaking the silence. On the other end is Dr. Enrique Ferrari, the car's owner. Calm and calculated, Enrique informs Ciro that the car is custom designed with cutting-edge security features. It is soundproof, bulletproof, and has active suspension that prevents movement. The car is essentially a fortress. Enrique reveals his motive: he's been a victim of robbery 29 times, and this setup is his way of fighting back. The SUV is his tool for delivering justice. Ciro, desperate and furious, curses Enrique and demands to be let out, but Enrique refuses. Psychological warfare. Enrique begins a psychological game, calling Ciro at intervals to interrogate him about his life and actions. He forces Ciro to confront the moral implications of his crimes, asking questions like, "What would you do if your son became a thief?" Enrique's calm demeanor contrasts sharply with Ciro's growing panic. Through these conversations, Enrique reveals his own tragic backstory. His daughter and grandson were victims of a violent robbery that left them traumatized and forced them to leave the country. This personal loss fuels Enrique's sense of vengeance and justice. Ciro, meanwhile, tries to survive inside the car. Enrique manipulates the SUV's environment, controlling the temperature, turning on loud noises, and depriving Ciro of food and water. The young thief begins to hallucinate and grows increasingly desperate. Desperation and reflection. As Ciro's physical and mental state deteriorates, Enrique continues his psychological assault. He lists Ciro's criminal record, recounting the harm he has caused others during his life of crime. The audience learns that Ciro's past is filled with violent acts, including robbery and manslaughter, painting him as more than just a petty thief. Ciro begins to break down emotionally, pleading for mercy and promising to change his ways. Enrique, however, remains unmoved, viewing this as a test of Ciro's sincerity. The story reaches a turning point when Enrique reveals that he visited Ciro's family, his wife, Irina, and young son, Lionel. Enrique provided them with financial assistance and advised Irina to leave Ciro for her own safety. This revelation shatters Ciro, as he realizes the extent of Enrique's control over his life. The escape attempt. Ciro manages to injure himself while attempting another escape, accidentally shooting himself in the leg. Weak and delirious, he calls Enrique, begging for medical help. Enrique, who is revealed to be a doctor, instructs Ciro on how to treat his wound using materials inside the car. This moment shows Enrique's complex nature. While he seeks vengeance, he doesn't want Ciro to die unnecessarily. After days of confinement, Ciro is at his breaking point. He makes one final plea, threatening to kill himself if Enrique doesn't release him. In a dramatic twist, Enrique finally unlocks the car. Freedom with consequences. Ciro stumbles out of the SUV, weak and broken. He is immediately confronted by neighbors who recognize him as a thief and verbally assault him. The once confident criminal is now a shadow of his former self, physically and emotionally scarred by the experience. As Ciro walks away, Enrique's voiceover reflects on the cycle of crime and punishment. The film leaves the audience questioning the morality of Enrique's actions. Was his treatment of Ciro justified, or did he become as cruel as the criminals he sought to punish? Crime and vigilante justice. The film explores the concept of vigilante justice through Enrique's character. His calculated methods raise questions about the ethics of taking the law into one's own hands. The cycle of violence. Through Ciro's backstory and Enrique's motivations, the film delves into how violence perpetuates itself across generations, creating a vicious cycle. Redemption and humanity. Ciro's ordeal forces him to reflect on his actions and their consequences. However, the film leaves it ambiguous whether this experience truly changes him. Ciro, the trapped thief. Ciro's arc is central to the film's exploration of morality and redemption. At the beginning, he is portrayed as a confident and experienced petty criminal, unrepentant in his lifestyle. His cocky attitude quickly gives way to desperation and vulnerability as he realizes the severity of his situation. Ciro's time in the SUV serves as both punishment and a forced introspection. While Enrique's psychological manipulation pushes him to confront his actions, it also strips him of his bravado, revealing a man shaped by systemic failures and poor choices. Despite his pleas and claims of change, the film leaves Ciro's transformation ambiguous, challenging the audience to decide if his remorse is genuine or a survival tactic. Enrique Ferrari, the architect of justice. Enrique's character is as complex as it is unsettling. A respected doctor with a tragic past, he channels his grief and anger into creating a system of personal justice. His use of the SUV as a prison symbolizes his calculated approach to controlling what he sees as an unjust world. While Enrique believes his actions are morally justified, the film subtly critiques his methods. His obsession with vengeance and control raises questions about whether he has crossed the line into cruelty. The fact that he aids Ciro medically, despite his anger, adds nuance to his character, portraying him as someone grappling with his own morality. Justice vs. vengeance. Enrique's actions blur the line between justice and revenge. The SUV becomes a metaphorical courtroom where Enrique plays the roles of judge, jury, and executioner. The film challenges viewers to consider whether vigilante justice can ever be morally acceptable or if it simply perpetuates violence. The consequences of crime. Through Ciro's backstory and Enrique's interrogations, the film explores how crime affects not only victims but also perpetrators and their families. Ciro's actions have estranged him from his wife and child, while Enrique's losses have turned him into a cold and calculating avenger. Claustrophobia and isolation. The confined setting of the SUV heightens the film's tension and serves as a physical manifestation of Ciro's moral entrapment. The lack of escape forces him to confront the consequences of his actions, mirroring the inescapable nature of guilt. Redemption and humanity. The film questions whether true redemption is possible in such extreme circumstances. Ciro's claims of remorse are juxtaposed with his survival instincts, leaving the audience to ponder whether he has genuinely changed or if he is simply saying what Enrique wants to hear. The role of technology in control. The advanced security features of the SUV symbolize how technology can be weaponized to control and punish. Enrique's use of remote systems to manipulate Ciro's environment highlights the dehumanizing potential of such tools, raising ethical concerns about surveillance and power. The first call. Enrique's initial phone call to Ciro sets the tone for the psychological warfare that follows. His calm and methodical demeanor contrasts sharply with Ciro's panic, establishing Enrique's dominance and control. The family revelation. Enrique's revelation that he has visited Ciro's family is a turning point in the film. This act of intrusion highlights Enrique's obsessive need to assert control over every aspect of Ciro's life, adding layers of tension and emotional complexity. The self-inflicted wound. Ciro's accidental shooting is a visceral reminder of his desperation. The subsequent interaction with Enrique, who guides him through treating the wound, showcases the complex dynamic between the two characters, one that oscillates between punishment and reluctant compassion. The final release. When Enrique finally unlocks the car, the audience is left to witness the broken man that Ciro has become. The scene is both cathartic and unsettling, as it underscores the lasting impact of the ordeal on Ciro's psyche. The SUV as a prison. The SUV represents more than just a physical trap, it is a symbol of Enrique's worldview, a controlled environment where justice is dispensed without external interference. Its impenetrability mirrors Enrique's unyielding sense of moral superiority. The phone as a tool of power. The phone serves as Enrique's primary means of exerting control over Ciro. It is a symbol of authority and manipulation, emphasizing the imbalance of power between the two characters. The bulletproof glass. The unbreakable windows of the SUV symbolize the inescapability of accountability. Ciro's futile attempts to smash his way out mirror his inability to escape the consequences of his actions. The film's ambiguous ending leaves viewers grappling with unresolved questions about justice, morality, and redemption. While Ciro is physically free, the psychological scars of his confinement linger, suggesting that true freedom may be unattainable. Similarly, Enrique's satisfaction in delivering his version of justice is tempered by the ethical implications of his methods. Conclusion: a gripping psychological thriller with moral complexity. 4x4, 2019, is a masterclass in tension and moral ambiguity, exploring themes of justice, control, and the human condition. Its claustrophobic setting and compelling character dynamics create a thought-provoking narrative that challenges viewers to examine their own beliefs about crime and punishment. Through its nuanced portrayal of Ciro and Enrique, the film raises important questions about the cycle of violence and the ethics of taking the law into one's own hands. With its gripping plot, rich symbolism, and haunting conclusion, 4x4 leaves a lasting impression as both a psychological thriller and a moral inquiry. 4x4 is a tense psychological thriller that examines morality, justice, and the human condition. Through its claustrophobic setting and intense character dynamics, the film keeps the audience on edge, delivering a thought-provoking narrative that lingers long after the credits roll. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.